Hey everybody, I recently did an install into my car, which is a 2016 WRX, and I put in a Sony XAV-AX5000, and I did that for a couple reasons. Main reasons, I was really unhappy with the stock deck that was made by Clarion. It looked nice, had a nice UI, but there were a ton of faults with it, primarily around USB. It was horrible. If I was getting to go to the grocery store and get back into the car, I'd be able to get in the car, start it, drive away, and drive down the street before it would link to my phone and start playing music again, which was horrible. And that happened on a couple phones. I know it wasn't a phone issue. And if I was in the car and I forgot something and I had the phone in my pocket and went in the house, it would disconnect from the radio. When I came back, the deck would just continually pair and unpair forever until I turned the car off, which was horrible. And then obviously there's obvious issues with Bluetooth audio quality on all decks, not just with this one. I always found that the radio sounded a bit flat and terrible, even though FM is not great compared to other formats. It sounded less than fantastic. So I decided to make the jump, and we'll talk about it. I'll kind of break this up into what's missing, what you lose when you go to the deck from the stock deck, what you gain, what I liked and what I disliked. So let's off just with some features, things that I don't like, or just I shouldn't say that I don't like, but I'm missing. So you lose your Sirius XM radio. The deck does support it, but you have to buy a secondary module. For me, that was a non-issue because I don't have Sirius XM radio. I don't plan to get it, so I didn't miss it. You lose HD radio because this deck doesn't have it. Up where I am, I have one station that's HD, so for me, again, non-issue, couldn't really care. You lose the built-in apps that come with Starlink from Subaru, so you miss like Pandora and AHA. I don't have either of those, but again, the fact that you gain Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which we'll talk about later, you kind of get that stuff anyway, so that again was not an issue. And I do miss my volume knob. I like having the knob. So those are things that you miss. What you do gain is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, both, which is great. 5-channel line output, so your 4 channels plus a sub, built-in crossover, which is awesome. Those are things that were key for me, and things that you keep. You keep with the right wiring harness. You keep your dimmer control, so when you turn your headlights on, the screen will dim. Your backup camera you retain, which is great. And your steering wheel controls. So we'll talk about that in a sec, but that was really key for me because I love my steering wheel controls. And the one thing that I liked about this deck is that you don't need a secondary module to have that to work, for the steering wheel controls to talk to the deck. The deck will learn your controls, which is awesome. So we'll get into that in a sec. So one thing I also like is the speed. So this thing turns on really quick, so it's been off until now, but let's fire it up. So I just turned the key on there, and you'll see it power up, get the Sony deck screen. That little screen comes up for a couple seconds. It does automatically go off, which I think was a problem with some of the older units. You could dismiss it by clicking on it, but I just wanted to show you the timing. And it happened to default to the USB cable where it had a memory stick, so it went right into the song. So let's go back. Main screen, here you go. You got your tuner, Sirius XM radio, which again doesn't work, but the icon's there, so maybe they'll give you the option to remove that in future firmware. Bluetooth audio, phone, and USB. And you have USB 1 and USB 2. The neat thing is when you have your phone plugged in, USB 1 disappears, all right, and you have a little icon up here that shows you have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, and USB 2 will move here, which is great. So you can toggle between the two on one screen. The other nice thing that I was able to retain was USB. So I bought the right adapter, and inside the glove box here, there's a little spot where I have a little USB memory key with music. I got to keep it, which is awesome. So you don't lose the functionality of that built into the car. Speaking of the tuner, let's see if I can show you this. If you're listening to the tuner, first off, it sounds way better than the stock radio, period. It's cleaner, it sounds better. It's still FM, but it does sound way better. So I was really happy about that. And I find switching stations is super quick too. Like, I don't know if you can tell there, but there's no lag, there's no dropout. So it never bothered me with the stock deck, but this one is way faster, which is awesome. And generally the deck is fast. Like when you hit any kind of button, like it's fast. There's nothing really, no issues with it at all, which is really good. Some people complain that the USB here is a little bit slow. I don't use too much USB audio because I use the Android Auto, but like if I switch to a song, like it just started. It's not that slow. Navigation isn't great, but it works. If you go to the next screen or you go back to another folder, Like it's good enough. So really no complaints there, to be honest. So yeah, so deck speed's great, tuner speed is great. The quick audio button, I like this, the options button. I'm a fiddler, I like to fiddle with audio settings, and I like now that I have that basically at my fingertips. So when I hit that, you can jump to your last 3 inputs. So I happen to be at USB, tuner, and Bluetooth audio last, so it populates those. You could jump to them, which is cool. But down here is what I like. So you have your extra bass that you can have on or off in different settings. If I remember correctly from the manual, that will affect the subwoofer output if you have line out and not the other speakers, which is nice. I'm sorry, going back there. I also like that you've got your EQ one touch away, and you can carry your change your sub settings right there, and you just basically just drag, which is nice and fast. You can turn your sub on and off. You can have change your EQ here. It's a 10 band, and you can also have presets. There's even an EDM preset, which is nice because I like EDM music, so that's pretty cool. And the other thing that I like is that I drive a lot of country roads, and sometimes I don't want the screen on, so you can actually shut it off completely, which is nice. So that's super, super handy. The dimmer though does work. So when that light's come on, like I said before, it will dim, but if you want no screen, it's 2 clicks away, right? Option, and then bang, which is pretty sick. All right. So I love that quick button. The other thing I like, Android Auto works amazing on this deck. Everything kind of works as expected. Plus you can program the voice control into this button, which I'll talk about the steering wheel controls in a second, but you can press and hold this and it'll do it. So oh, it's going to call me a liar now. Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm holding my phone. Anyways, you press and hold that, it comes up regardless of what screen you're on. So it doesn't matter if you're on tuner or Android Auto or USB, it will come up, give you the Google Assistant, you ask your question, and it works flawlessly. That was such a pain on the stock deck. It never worked right because of the Bluetooth audio would be engaged only when you needed it, and it never worked right. It would record the assistant's voice and put it into your messages. It was horrible. That whole problem's gone away, which is super, super awesome. So those are some of the things I really like. Things I'm not a fan of is that you can see the menus are a little bland. You're never really staring at them, so I guess it doesn't matter, but I'm kind of picky. If I had to be super picky, I would have loved the 4th button here for the crossover settings, because I do like to fiddle, but it's not there. Again, but it's not that hard, right? If you're at your home, right here, hit home, settings, sound, there's your crossover, right? So that's pretty straightforward. All right, so not the end of the world. The other thing, I guess, it hopefully will go away, that will get fixed, is that there's a bug, which if you look at my YouTube channel, there's another bug that talks about the settings where if you do use the EQ, or sorry, not EQ, the crossover, if you have this set to anything other than off, you get this weird kind of static popping noise coming out of your speakers. As soon as you turn it off, it goes away. So I know it's not my setup, it's the crossover. And the other trick is you can leave it on like I do, and if you turn on the DSO to any one of these settings, the noise goes away. So it's some sort of internal processing that's broken that has nothing to do with my setup. So I've already let Sony know about that. Hopefully they'll fix it. So in terms of the install, it was pretty straightforward. At the bottom of this video, you're going to find a parts list of all the parts I used, including this nice bezel that you see here. So that's not the stock bezel, this is an aftermarket, but it looks like stock. Wiring harnesses, and instructions that I grabbed off someone and I modified for this car and for this deck. So have a look at that if you want to do the install. It was actually really easy. The hardest thing is getting the stock deck out, and there's tons of videos that other guys have done to do that. So just watch that. So I told you about the USB port that is for underneath the console. The other USB port for your smartphone, I pulled it down here. You can pull it wherever you want. There's tons of length on that cable. You don't see a lot because I just tucked it away, but it is there. And I think really that's it. Oh, steering wheel controls. I wanted to show you that. So this is really slick. Go to general. There's your backup camera. You can change the lines of the backup camera. That's cool. But let me show you the steering wheel control, because I thought this was slick. So this, again, doesn't need a secondary module like a Maestro or anything like that. You get a 1/8 inch earphone jack, splice the wires and hook it up like I've got in my wiring diagram, and then put it to custom. And now all of these buttons can be programmed to here. which is awesome. So I've programmed everything here with the exception of this back button because there's no feature for it. I put my mute button up here because I like this to be my start and stop music, like my play on pause. So my mute button's there, but everything else works. Source, your phone button's down here. Like I said, the Android Auto works, volume up and down, channel left, right. Everything works and can be programmed here and reset. It's awesome. So I didn't really lose any functionality that way. So, like I said, fast deck, great audio. It sounds amazing. The crossover is great. It looks sweet, as you can kind of tell. It looks really nice with the rest of the interior of the car, the kind of gray and black. I don't really miss the volume buttons. I don't miss the stuff that didn't come with. Really, really happy. And it's not an expensive deck. It's half the price of some of the nicer Pioneers. So it's great. I definitely recommend it. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. And we'll go from there. Thanks.